Welcome to Detroit Black Journal. We'd like to thank Deputy Chief Napoleon for joining us here in the studio. And first off, let's establish that we are not talking about gun control. We are focusing on safety and responsibility for law-abiding citizens who happen to own guns. Chief Napoleon, thanks once again for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
What we can see when we start talking about gun safety in our area, here in the metropolitan Detroit Tri-County area, is what appears to be an alarming increase in the incidence of gun violence or gun-related deaths that are accidental, seemingly controllable accidents that seem to be happening with frequency among young people and children, which of course naturally would seem to focus us on this issue as some sort of crisis, accidental gun deaths because guns are being carelessly used or misused.
Well, without question, we have far too many young people who are the victims of firearms wounding during the course of a year, whether it be accidental or whether it be intentional. And overall in the city of Detroit, we have too many homicides that are related to the use of firearms. So firearms and firearms-related deaths are definitely a problem, not just in the city of Detroit, but throughout the country.
I guess what makes this issue so outstanding, not only for Detroiters and others, is the fact that so many of the deaths and injuries that seem to be occurring, like those we're reading about in the papers these days, seem to be happening to young people, and they seem to be quite preventable. Young people are getting these handguns, and people in general, the criminal population, if you will, have their hands on guns that probably shouldn't even be out there in circulation. How are they getting the guns?
Well, the guns fall into the hands of the children a lot of ways, and to the hands of criminals. You have licensed gun dealers who are selling guns to people illegally. You also have guns that are taken in robberies, burglaries, and other type crimes that fall into the hands of people illegally. Then you have those that are possessed legitimately by homeowners, police personnel, other law enforcement people, and those guns fall into the hands of children, unfortunately, or other people, and they result in firearms-related deaths or injuries. So the ones that are preventable clearly are those that are in the home under the control of a person who is responsible. They are possessed legitimately, but they're just not stored properly. They are kept loaded. They're kept in a location that children are familiar with and a location that is accessible to the child, and they don't have gun locks on them. A lot of the things that could be done to prevent a lot of these accidental deaths and injuries are not being done by those who possess firearms legitimately.
Detroit has talent. That's the hashtag for the social media movement named Roster Detroit. The goal is to change the conversation about the contributions of African Americans to the city's comeback. It is done by sharing positive stories and identifying networking and business opportunities for black men and women. Here now is the founder of Roster Detroit, Marlowe Stoudamire, along with Mark Lee of the Lee Group, who has blogged about the project in Crane's Detroit Business. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right,
Appreciate
so
it.
Tell me what inspired you to celebrate the contributions of African Americans right now in the city of Detroit.
Well, it all started with three things. So I was very frustrated with a Black History Month that felt kind of muted and kind of old. The images that I was seeing and hearing about black men, particularly on Facebook and social media, and then this notion of Detroit not having talent. And every time we have a conversation about what talent is or what it looks like, it was the traditional white male millennial or the person riding in on their horse to save Detroit. And I said, that's not the Detroit I know. And so instead of me complaining, I said, you know what, there's people within my network, brothers who I can lift up. And I started doing a story, 2 stories every day. And just to tell people, like, these are the guys that I know. And then it took hold and it went wildfire, right? And so basically over 50 days, I did 2 stories every day. And halfway through, I started getting calls. People wanted access to the talent. They wanted more stories. They wanted to know who these people were. And I realized that this was much bigger. So I started working with a partner, and we created Roster to really create that digital platform to disrupt that status quo that I just talked about.
Where is that status quo coming from? Why are we having a hard time with this in a city that's 85% African American?
It's America. I mean, if you think about the way that America has set up, whether it be African Americans, women, people with disabilities, there's this notion that we've came up with around hidden talent. And so the majority, which is actually shifting, and by the year 2040, 2045, America will not be predominantly white. There's still this stronghold on this legacy and tradition of white America and these images. And so for us, we believe if you are going to disrupt the status quo, you have to change the conversation, the narrative, and the image of what talent looks like, but not just what talent looks like, but connecting talent to real opportunities. And so for us, we're saying that, listen, if there's not a table for us to sit at, we'll have to create our own table, our own platform. This is not exclusion of them, it's about inclusion of us in that conversation. And that's really important to me. And so to me, traditionally, you know, America has hired those who look like them, who they know, care, and like. And so it's relational. That's really what it is.